Hello, y'all, and welcome to the 11B2 notes. Today, we're going to continue to use the Pythagorean identity in order to solve for sine theta and cosine theta. Let's begin with problem 1. Our first step is going to be to draw a sketch. We're going to plot the point 6, 8, where x equals 6, y equals 8, on our sketch. We can also add theta here, and we know that this is a right angle. That'll be useful later. Now we're going to add our other values. We know x equals 6, so that's going to go down here. And y equals 8, so that'll go here. The one value on this triangle that we're missing is the hypotenuse. In order to solve for the hypotenuse, we're going to use Pythagorean theorem. Now we just plug in the leg. Remember, order doesn't matter. Now we solve for c. In order to get rid of the square, we're going to do the opposite, which is square root. Don't forget the plus or minus on your 10. C only has one value though, not two. In order to figure out which, we need to remember that C is a length, and lengths are always positive. From here, we now have all the information we need to find sine theta. To do it, we're going to use SOHCAHTOA. Hopefully you remember that from middle school. All we need to do is plug in values. We know that the opposite of theta is over here. It's 8. And we just solved for the hypotenuse, and that was 10. Now we can simplify this fraction. And that's it. We're done. Go ahead and try the next two problems in the same way. The amount of work you see in number 3 is what I would expect at the bare minimum on a quiz or any other work that you turn in. All right, let's try the next slide. Here we see these things called trigonometric identities. We're not going to worry about these 3 new ones right now. We'll get there. Let's start with number 4. Number 4 gives us cosine and asks us to find sine. This should remind you of 11b, day 1. Then we use the Pythagorean identity, which is that last equation. Go ahead and do it just like we did before. Here's where it gets tricky. We don't have a quadrant, but it does tell us that theta is an acute angle. We know that an acute angle is an angle between 0 and 90 degrees. We can combine that information with what we know about the unit circle. We know that theta is the angle here. In this case, it has to be less than 90 degrees. Because of that, our point has to be in quadrant 1. And if the point is in quadrant 1, then sine theta has to be positive. If we want to find tan theta, we know that tan equals sine over cosine. Then we just simplify, just like before. All done, if a little bit messy. Try number 5 on your own. There you have it. Number 5, all complete. Go ahead and check your work. Alright, this is where we're going to introduce the rest of our trigonometric identities. These are cosecant, secant, and cotangent. We're going to use these to simplify these expressions. The first step is to put everything in terms of sine and cosine. We're going to use our trigonometric identities to do this. For instance, we could write tan as sine over cosine. And then we're multiplying by cosecant. Cosecant we could write as 1 over sine theta. The reason we do this is it makes the next step, which is simplifying, easier. Remember, when we multiply two fractions, we can connect them like this. Then all we need to do is cancel out things that are on both the top and the bottom. In this case, that's sine theta. So we're left with 1 over cosine theta. Our last step is to rewrite. In this case, we know that 1 over cosine theta is equal to secant theta. And that's our final answer. All right, let's try number 7. In this case, we know that secant theta can be rewritten as 1 over cosine theta. Cotangent can be written as cosine theta over sine theta. Remember, we want the version with cosines and sines, and cosecant can be rewritten as 1 over sine theta. From here, we simplify. The difference here is we have 2 sine thetas on the bottom. We can write that as sine theta squared. To rewrite this, we know that 1 over sine theta is the same thing as cosecant of theta. Don't forget your square. All right, try the last one on your own. In this case, there's nothing to rewrite it to, so we're done. Excellent work, y'all. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next week for 11C.